All right, so today we're diving deep into a listener request.
Yeah.
And this one really made me kind of raise an eyebrow.
Yeah, I can see why.
They want to know why Warren Buffett, Mr. Oracle of Omaha himself, seems to be so bullish on some unexpected companies for December 2024.
Like really unexpected.
Right, not the usual suspects at all.
Yeah.
So we're talking about this Motley Fool article, 2 Warren Buffett stocks to buy hand over fist in December. And it highlights Sirius XM and Citigroup.
Interesting.
Sirius XM, satellite radio.
Yeah.
And Citigroup, the bank. Well, the bank that's been through some stuff.
Been through it, yeah.
So not exactly the kind of companies you'd picture the legendary investor going for, right?
And the classic Buffett picks now.
Yeah.
You think Apple, Coca-Cola.
Exactly. So that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. Like, what does he see in these companies that maybe the rest of the market is missing?
I mean, Buffett's built his whole reputation on value investing, right? Finding those hidden gems, those diamonds in the rough.
Right. So let's start with what we know about Warren Buffett's investment track record. I mean, this guy's a legend for a reason.
Yeah, for good reason. His holding company, Berkshire Hathaway, has seen its stock grow, like over 4,384,748% from 1965 to 2023.
Wow.
That's almost 20% average annual gain, which is incredible.
Yeah.
The S&P 500 in that same period gained 31,223%, which is also pretty good. An average annual gain of about 10% with the dividends included.
So yeah, when Buffett makes a move, people definitely pay attention.
They should.
Okay, so on to Sirius XM.
Yeah.
The article mentions that Berkshire Hathaway is now their biggest shareholder.
Largest shareholder.
Which speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm.
But Sirius XM has had kind of a crazy year this year. They split from Liberty Media, went through a reverse stock split, and their stock dropped by over 50%.
Ouch.
Yeah. So they're dealing with a lot of debt and declining subscriber numbers.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what's the upside here?
Well, remember, Buffett's in it for the long game.
The long game.
He's not looking at the day-to-day fluctuations. He's looking at the long-term potential. And the article points out that Sirius XM is making the big bet on a long-term strategy focused on subscription growth. So they're really focusing on exclusive content, trying to snag those podcast deals and advertising rights to diversify their offering.
Right. Appeal to a wider audience.
Exactly.
Okay, so they're trying to build a moat around their business.
Yeah.
Make themselves irreplaceable. That sounds like a classic Buffett move,
Absolutely a classic Buffett move, investing in companies with a durable competitive advantage.
Right. It's not just about the content itself. It's about building that platform that people rely on.
Yeah, that they can't get anywhere else.
Okay. So their stated goal is to increase subscribers by 25% from 2023, hitting 50 million subscribers, and boost free cash flow by 50% to $1.8 billion.
Ambitious.
Ambitious is putting it lightly.
Yeah.
Can they really pull that off?
That's the question, isn't it? And that's where the value investing comes in. The article argues that if SiriusXM even comes close to achieving these goals, the increase in free cash flow could be used to pay down debt, buy back shares, and maybe even increase dividends.
Okay, so increase dividends, buy back shares, pay down debt, and right now the stock is trading below 8 times its earnings with a dividend yield close to 4%.
So there's potential upside there. But also, a lot that could go wrong.
Right. High risk, high reward.
Exactly. High risk, high reward.
And just to step back for a second and make sure we're all on the same page, when we talk about free cash flow, what does that really mean?
Right. Good point. Not everyone listening is a finance whiz.
Right.
Free cash flow is basically the cash a company has left over after paying operating expenses and capital expenditures.
Okay.
So it's the money they have left to play with, essentially. And healthy free cash flow gives a company flexibility, like paying off that debt or potentially giving some of that cash back to shareholders through dividends.
Okay, so it's essentially how much wiggle room the company has.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so with SiriusXM, it's a high-risk, high-reward situation. It all hinges on their ability to execute this ambitious growth strategy in a really competitive market.
That's the key.
Okay, so let's shift gears to Citigroup.
All right, Citigroup, let's talk about it.
Buffett's been a long-time investor in bank stocks.
He loves bank stocks.
And it's interesting that he's maintained Berkshire Hathaway's stake in Citigroup at almost 3%, even as they've been selling off stakes in other banks.
That's a big signal.
Especially considering all the turmoil banks have faced lately with failures and that whole inverted yield curve situation.
Right. Not a great time to be in banking.
That seems like a bold move. So what makes Citigroup different?
Well, for one thing, the yield curve has begun to normalize, which is good news for banks in general.
Okay, so just a quick reminder. What is the yield curve again?
Sure. So the yield curve is basically the difference between short-term and long-term interest rates. And as the Federal Reserve has cut interest rates this year, that difference has started to become less negative.
Okay.
So what does that mean?
What does that mean?
It means that banks can potentially make more money from lending.
Right, because their basic business model is borrowing at lower rates and lending at higher rates.
Exactly.
As the yield curve normalizing, that's good news for banks in general.
In general, yes.
But Citigroup specifically has had its own struggles.
Its own set of challenges, yes.
Internal issues, shareholder frustration, a complex structure.
It's a big, complicated bank.
Yeah. The article highlights how CEO Jane Fraser, who took over in 2021, has been trying to simplify things.
Trying to clean up the mess.
Yeah, she's been selling off international consumer franchises and focusing on businesses with higher returns.
Trying to streamline things.
But they're still in the process of exiting Banamex, right? Their Mexican consumer banking arm.
Oh, yeah, Banamex. It's been a long saga.
That sounds like a pretty complex undertaking.
It's been a headache for sure.
So what's the plan there?
The plan is to do an IPO and gradually sell it off.
Okay.
It's going to take a while.
It's a long game.
It is a long game.
Yeah.
But it's also seen as potentially freeing up a lot of capital.
Right, which they could then use for share buybacks or to increase dividends.
Potentially.
So similar to Sirius XM, there's potential for things to turn around, but it all depends on execution.
Execution is key.
And when you compare Citigroup's valuation to its peers, it's trading at a significant discount, below 80% of its tangible book value. Can you remind us what tangible book value means?
Tangible book value is basically the net worth of a company. If you were to liquidate all of its assets and pay off all its debts, it's a way to measure a company's intrinsic value.
Okay, so in a way, it's like, what's the company actually worth?
Yeah, if you strip everything away.
Okay, so Citigroup is trading at a discount to its book value, while its peers are trading much closer to twice their book value.
Big difference.
So the market is valuing Citigroup much lower than similar banks.
Yeah, it's like they're saying, we don't trust you.
Right. That does seem like there's potential for the stock to rise if they can just get their act together.
If they can get their act together, yeah. And historically, Citigroup has traded around 83% of its tangible book value on average.
Okay.
So there's precedent for closing that gap. And on top of that, Citigroup offers a dividend yield of over 3%. Not bad for a company undergoing a turnaround.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
But the big question is this a genuine opportunity? Or is Citigroup a classic value trap?
The classic value trap.
Yeah.
You know, a company that seems cheap for a reason and might stay that way.
Right. It's cheap for a reason.
That's the question.
Yeah. And I guess that's what we're going to try to figure out.
So we're here to discuss.
All right. So I've got Sirius XM, high risk, high reward.
Betting on growth.
And then we've got Citigroup.
A turnaround story.
The turnaround story. Potentially undervalued, but also potentially a trap.
Lots to unpack.
So much to unpack.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll really dig into the potential risks and rewards for both of these companies.
Stay tuned.
That's the thing, though, right? It's easy to get caught up in all the potential upside and forget about the potential downside.
Yeah, the what ifs.
We've talked about the what ifs for Sirius XM. But what about those same concerns for Citigroup?
Right. Are they really going to turn it around?
Is the market right to be skeptical?
It's a valid concern, for sure. And the Motley Fool article does acknowledge those internal issues and the shareholder frustrations we mentioned.
Yeah.
They point to CEO Jane Fraser's efforts to simplify the business, improve those internal controls, and focus on fair returning areas as potential positives.
Right. And they say she's been making some progress.
Trying to.
But even the article admits that Buffett hasn't owned Citigroup since 2001 until recently.
Huh.
And he's known for being a long-term holder. So that recent purchase seems significant.
Yeah, it's like he's seeing something different this time around.
Right. Like maybe he believes that Fraser's turnaround plan is actually working. Or maybe he sees an opportunity in the current market conditions that others are overlooking.
He's good at that.
You know, it makes me think about my own investing style. I tend to be a bit more cautious, maybe even risk-averse. I wonder if I'd have the stomach to invest in a company like Citigroup, knowing its history of underperformance.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it highlights how important it is to understand your own risk tolerance as an investor. There's no right or wrong answer here. Some investors thrive on taking those big swings, while others prefer a more steady approach. It all depends on your comfort level.
And even if you are comfortable with a higher level of risk, it's still crucial to do your due diligence.
Absolutely.
Don't just blindly follow what someone like Warren Buffett is doing.
He's done well for himself.
He has. But yeah,
But it's important to do your own research.
Right. The Motley Fool article provides a starting point.
Good starting point.
But it's just
A
that.
starting point.
You got to go beyond the information presented and dig deeper.
Get deeper.
What other factors might be influencing these companies' performance? What are the broader economic trends at play?
Exactly.
What are analysts saying about their future prospects?
Right. Are there other headwinds? Are there tailwinds?
These are the types of questions you need to be asking yourself.
Don't just take it at face value.
And don't be afraid to challenge the assumptions presented in the article.
Challenge everything.
What if Sirius XM's subscriber growth projections are overly optimistic?
Right. What if they don't hit those targets?
What if Citigroup's turnaround takes longer than expected or faces unforeseen obstacles?
What if things go wrong?
You're absolutely right. There's no such thing as a guaranteed return in the stock market. And it's essential to be aware of the potential downsides as well as the upsides.
Manage those expectations.
It reminds me of that saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Words to live by.
It's easy to get caught up in the hype, especially when a name like Warren Buffett is attached to it.
Yeah, the Buffett effect.
Okay, so let's say, hypothetically speaking, you were considering investing in one of these companies. Where would you even begin your research? What resources or tools would you use to evaluate them beyond this article?
Well, I always start by looking at the company's financial statements.
Okay.
Their income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statement. These give you a snapshot of their financial health and how they're managing their money.
That sounds pretty intimidating, especially for someone who's not a financial expert.
It can be, but there are resources available to help make sense of it all.
Okay.
There are plenty of websites and online courses that break down these concepts in a way that's easy to understand. And you can always consult with a financial advisor if you need more personalized guidance.
That's a good point. Don't be afraid to seek help if you need it. There's no shame in admitting you don't know everything. In fact, I think it's a sign of a smart investor to acknowledge their limitations and seek out expert advice when necessary.
Absolutely. Investing is a journey, not a destination.
It's about constantly learning and evolving your approach as you gain experience and knowledge.
Exactly.
All right. So we've talked about the potential upsides and downsides of Sirius XM and Citigroup. We've also talked about the importance of doing your own research, understanding your risk tolerance, and seeking expert advice when needed.
Checking all the boxes.
But beyond the specifics of these two companies, there's a bigger theme at play here, and that's the concept of value investing.
The core principle.
Right. It's about finding those companies that the market has undervalued, that have the potential to outperform in the long run, even if they're going through a rough patch in the short term.
Exactly. It's about looking beyond the headlines, beyond the noise, and really understanding the underlying fundamentals of a business.
You know, thinking about it this way, it almost feels like we're detectives, piecing together clues to uncover hidden value.
I like that analogy.
It's not just about crunching numbers. It's about understanding the story behind those numbers.
The narrative.
And that story often involves challenges and setbacks and uncertainties.
It's rarely a straight line to success.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, the question remains, does this knowledge, this understanding of value investing, change your perception of these two companies?
Has it changed your mind?
Are you more or less likely to consider them for your own portfolio now?
What do you think?
What additional research would you do before making the decision?
These are the questions we'll explore further in the final part of our deep dive.
It's funny. Before this deep dive, I always thought of value investing as just like finding stocks with low prices.
Right. Bargain hunting.
Yeah, exactly. But now I'm seeing it's so much more nuanced than that.
It's a whole philosophy.
It really is. It's about understanding the intrinsic worth of a company,
the real value,
looking past those temporary setbacks and believing in its long-term potential.
Having that vision.
And it strikes me that there's a psychological element to value investing too.
Oh, absolutely.
It takes a certain kind of mindset to go against the grain, to bet on companies that others have written off.
Yeah, you got to be comfortable being contrarian.
You got to be comfortable with uncertainty, with the possibility that the market might not recognize the value you see right away.
And that takes patience.
Patience, conviction, a willingness to be different.
To be a little bit of a rebel.
It also makes me wonder if there's a connection between this kind of investing and Warren Buffett's overall philosophy on life.
Interesting thought.
He seems to be someone who values simplicity, consistency, and long-term thinking. Not just in his investing, but in everything he does.
Yeah, he's all about the long game.
That's a really interesting observation. And it makes me think about how our investing decisions often reflect our values and beliefs.
For sure.
If you're someone who values quick wins and instant gratification, value investing might not be the right fit for you.
Probably not.
Right. But if you're someone who believes in the power of compounding, who understands that real wealth is built over time, then this approach starts to make a lot of sense.
It clicks.
It becomes less about trying to time the market perfectly and more about finding those companies that you believe in, that you're willing to hold on to for the long haul, through the ups and downs.
Weathering the storm.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Warren Buffett's intriguing stock picks, I think the most valuable takeaway isn't necessarily whether to buy Sirius XM or Citigroup.
Right, it's bigger than that.
It's about understanding the thinking behind those picks, the principles of value investing that have guided Buffett to such remarkable success.
The fundamentals.
It's about applying those principles to your own investment decisions, whatever those may be.
Making it your own.
It's about asking those critical questions. What is this company truly worth? What is the market missing? What are the risks and potential rewards?
Doing that due diligence.
And most importantly, does this investment align with my own values, my own goals, my own risk tolerance?
It's all connected.
There are no easy answers in the stock market. No guaranteed paths to riches.
It's a journey.
But by thinking deeply, by challenging assumptions, by doing our own research, we can make more informed decisions and navigate the complexities of the market with greater confidence.
Empowering yourself with knowledge.
Remember, investing is a journey, not a destination. There's always more to learn, more to explore, more to discover.
Keep diving deep.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking. Until next time, keep exploring.